Good morning, everyone, and welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing for Monday, the 10th of February. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barry. How's it going, Joshua?
I did not expect the Rangers Queen's Park game to be as busy as this, Derek, put it that way. And lots of... You come back to... What's that meme of the man leaving the house? He comes back with the pizza and the house is on fire.
Yeah,
Rangers have not been far away from that moment of crisis. It's felt like for a long, long time. Yesterday is a nadir of just, quite unbelievable result at Ibrox, and for Rangers, unbelievable for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah. If you didn't join myself and Johnny last night or watch the Chris and Joshua's post-match reaction, if you weren't aware of yesterday's results, then Rangers knocked out of the Scottish Cup by a Championship mid-table side Queen's Park at Ibrox by 1-0. Rangers were shocking, let's be honest about it. They should not be going out to teams like that, with all due respect to Queen's Park, but I thought they deserved to go through the Spiders. That's despite a missed penalty right at the death from James Tavernier, with the Queen's Park goalie, who was having the game of his life, tipping the ball away. And Rangers now have nothing to play for domestically. They've got a 2-game season, if you like, and then whether that can be extended, who knows. But a real angry reaction afterwards, as you would expect from the fan base towards the manager, towards the board, towards the running of the club over the last few years. It's not been good enough. Joshua, you were at Ibrox yesterday. What do you make of the reaction, the press conference from Philip Clement, where he was asked whether he would resign? He said no, doesn't expect to have conversations with the board. What was the whole sort of mood and atmosphere like at the ground?
The mood, I would say, apathetic is the wrong phrase. There was an element of resignation, and that's not said. That's not to downplay people's emotions. I just think there's been so many disappointing days that people have sat through at Ibrox yesterday, Derek, and yesterday was almost, because it was kind of unbelievable, yet believable that it was happening. It's a hangover of what we've seen for a long time domestically. Clement's press conference was kind of what we've come to expect. He defended his record. He points to progress. What you would say is that strides forward have happened, but strides forward don't happen in isolation of big steps backwards. You go back to the Old Firm game at the start of the year, Derek, when that 3-0 win for Rangers should have been a result that put them back into the title race, breathed life into their season. But because of the backward steps that were being taken around it, with drop points in 4 games away from home, it didn't really matter. It was a dent in Celtic's season. It was a good day for Rangers, but in the context of the season, it didn't really matter. You look at European football this season, it's been really good. The Rangers are in the top 8. That's a fantastic achievement. But that doesn't take away from the fact that their season is over before the clocks have gone forwards. Their domestic season is over by, February the 11th? Not even, is it February the 11th? I don't know.
February the 9th.
10th. Yeah, it's not even mid-February. So there was I think Clement will fight his corner. Is this issue bigger than him? Yes. Is he solely responsible for where Rangers are? No. But what he is responsible for, I think, first and foremost as a Rangers manager, Derek, is creating a domestic template that you can see, given the situation Rangers have been in, the financial gulf to Celtic, you can see this is going to work long term. This is going to turn things long term. There is something here to buy into that domestically down the line, this is going to win consecutively. I don't think you can say that at the moment at all. And 17 months into Clement's time at the club, if you're looking at his domestic template, the type of football Rangers play, we've spoken about it all season. They look like a better team when they don't have the ball. They look more comfortable setting the tempo in games where they don't have the ball, when the chances are created largely, I think, through pressing moments. Yes, they created enough opportunities to score yesterday against Queen's Park, but also you're playing, in effect, your strongest team, given 1 or 2 players. That's a Queen's Park team who lost the bottom of the Championship. Airdrie last week, And while the stats maybe suggest that Rangers should have scored 1 or 2 goals, they have that late penalty. I don't think anyone neutral watching that game thought that it was you couldn't begrudge Queen's Park for taking something from it. So nadir is the word, and the question is, where now? If that result doesn't generate Rangers looking for a manager, what will? And it's a bigger topic around getting the next appointment right if they make one. Patrick Stewart was only a month ago, I think, today that he came out and publicly backed Clement. But it is a situation this season, Derek, that every time you've thought, have Rangers just turned a corner, eventually there's a nasty surprise around the next corner that makes things even worse than before. And I don't think anyone thought really going into yesterday it could be as bad as it eventually was.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people saying a Rangers manager can't survive a defeat like this, but more often than not, when something like this does happen, they do survive. I mean, Scott Simon wasn't sacked immediately after Berwick Rangers. Graham Souness wasn't sacked when Rangers lost to Lord Hamilton Accies, who were in the same division at the time in '87 in the Scottish Cup. Pedro wasn't sacked after Progress. I don't expect Clement to be sacked after this. I'm not saying that's the right move. I'm just saying I can't see the board making a decision on his future at this moment in time. Like you, Joshua, I don't see it improving under him. I think they'll give him the Europa League, given he's done well in that competition this season. That's last 16 games taking place. The first leg's on the 6th of March. Second leg on the 13th, of course, as well. And that will decide when Rangers progress to the quarterfinals. But between now and then, and the rest of the season domestically, Rangers are just going to be playing glorified friendlies, in effect, which is absolutely galling.
Well, it's early February, and Rangers fans will now have to sit through the next 3 months knowing that they're closer and closer to sitting through another Celtic treble. That is, how do you've got season tickets to sell in what, a month and a half, 2 months, or maybe 2 months renewals will be up. It's important, I think, to also talk about how we got here, Derek, and also like what now, because Patrick Stewart, the situation has changed at Rangers this season. And at the start of the season, John Bennett threw his weight very publicly behind Philippe Clement. Rangers announced that new contract on the eve of the new season. The negotiation was triggered, in effect, by both parties. Clement, as he subsequently spoke about publicly, inherited a job where he maybe wasn't given the full picture, where he had less money to spend than first hoped. So there was this renegotiation from both sides, because Clement's stock was still pretty high at the end of last season. He'd come very close to really getting Rangers into the title race in the final stages of the season. Injuries had caught up by that point, so you could still say that his stock was pretty high. And there was a recommittal from both sides, from Clement saying, okay, I'll buy into this and I will agree to a job even though the situation is different to the one I was effectively promised, but I'm going to need time and guarantee. And that's why he is, when he's had these results, Derek, this season, and you think back to Motherwell away or even Dundee away recently when he said he's 200% sure he retains the board's backing. I thought there was a bit of a detachment from Clement, not in the frustration of the result yesterday, but the significance of the result, because at the start of the season there's been this agreement that we're going to do this, it's going to be painful, we're going to strip back the wage bill, we're going to lower the average age of the squad, we're going to try and recruit new markets, and we will give you time because we understand this is not ideal circumstances. All of that can be true, and I think it is a positive that the noises suggest that Stewart is now the executive making decisions, and it will be an executive team taking the power away from the boardroom, the people who put the money in, the decision makers that have ultimately, let's be clear and honest, Derek, have led Rangers to this point. Patrick Stewart has a big decision to make, not just today, but going forward as well. He called back in Clement, perhaps not the popular decision, but he wanted to make the right one for the club this time last month. So there's that going on, that maybe the power is coming away a little bit from the board, and instead to appoint an executives, you've got recruitment where I think Rangers are more club-led than manager-led. And Clement has inherited difficult situations. However, you're still accountable for the performance. And yesterday when he says, would it be different if another coach was in situ.
But
that's the whole point of a coach. If not, you pay any coach to manage your team. I think Rangers' issues that you've seen domestically are an inherent part of their philosophy, which works really well in Europe and in certain games. Clement is clearly a very intelligent coach who's won well in the past, who's still highly regarded in Belgium, who you would suspect would manage Belgium at some point later in his career. But there is a reality to managing Rangers. There's a reality to performance. And then there's a question off the back of a result like yesterday, Derek, of if not a result like that, then what? If not now, when? And there is some logic to, okay, Rangers maybe make the decision in the summer. They give a new manager time to bed in. You don't want to consign him to the dregs of this season, seeing in a Celtic treble, coming in without a pre-season. But long term, Patrick Stewart, the question he needs to ask, I think, is this a domestic template that is going to work? Is this a domestic template that the short-term pain is worth the long-term? And the evidence at the moment says no, based on yesterday too.
Yep. Stevie gets in touch. Morning, Stevie. Says his position is untenable. It has been for months. Completely unacceptable. Make the change. So, it's a feeling that's held by, I would say, the vast majority of supporters at this moment in time. You mentioned there about Celtic hurtling towards yet another treble, Joshua. They've managed to overtake Rangers in trophies. The thing that sticks in my throat with regards to this, they never won a treble when Rangers were out of the top division. They then went and embarked on winning 5 of them since the club have been back in the top flight, and it's soon to be 6, barring a shock perhaps in the Scottish Cup. That's not necessarily on the manager for me. That's on the Rangers hierarchy. I know it's changed since the club have came back to the top flight, but that is a damning statistic and blight on whoever is running the club.
Yeah, there's logic in, like, if you look at how Rangers got here, right, making consistent managerial changes, probably not backing Gerrard enough and trying to play catch up from then. There's so many bad decisions, I think, that have led Rangers here after they got into that position. And we've been doing this podcast for 3 years, and we've spent our fair amount of time speaking about that. And you're right, it's not all on Clement. Absolutely not. He has spoken in the past. He said, I think the phrase was, things have come onto his desk that no manager in the world should face. The start of the season was spent at Hampden instead of Ibrox. After 5 summer signings, Clement publicly said Rangers had to sell before they could buy. A rebuild was taking place in difficult circumstances. So there is logic in saying we're not going to rush into decisions. We're going to think long term. And if that results in Rangers making the right appointment and getting things right next season, or and it feels far away today, or in a faraway world where Clement does turn things around next season, you look back and think, okay, Rangers were right to be patient. The point is, you can't just do the opposite thing of what you've done to try and get results. You know, we've spoken about it before, but obviously Beale and Van Bronckhorst were sacked at 9 points behind in October. It's a very different situation now. So I don't know what you think on that, because there needs to be structures outside the manager put in place for a club to work. And that, I think, with recruitment, I think with a CEO who has actual CEO power, taking it away from the chairman just being a chairman who has financial stake in the club, that all makes sense. And the manager has been dealt a difficult set of cards. But you still need to control what is within your control. And I thought yesterday, Clement post-match, it felt like he was deflecting blame away from the reality of the result, and the fact that it is him in the dugout, and it is his set of players and his tactical approach. I don't think, I know he brought up tactic yesterday, I don't think Rangers looked like a team. They were kind of flailing from, as soon as that goal went in on 70 minutes, they didn't have much. No, and that is damning in and of itself. They had the chances to do so. They had that penalty, but they didn't look like a team who I just think consistently don't look really confident and composed when they have 60-70% of possession. And that is the majority of games they play. That's the issue, I think, at the core of it. See, if you had a game, the games against Aberdeen, where the Aberdeen play high line at Ibrox, or Ross County and Kilmarnock, who man mark, right, and it's easier to create space against them. If that is the template every week, I don't think we have this conversation about Clement. I think it is just the fact that 60-70% of the games Rangers play, you need to set the tempo with the ball, and I don't think his style of play is suited to that, and then everything falls from that.
They almost need two coaches. I would have no issue with Clement taking a European Rangers team, but domestically at home, and it's not that the first manager to struggle against these low blocks and the nature of Scottish football, but he's been unable to grasp how to beat these teams, really. I mean, Queen's Park, come on. I mean, even Fraserburgh at Ibrox recently, that first half was so stodgy and turgid, defies belief. Fraserburgh were very unfortunate.
They should have equalised, shouldn't they? Yeah, they should have equalised.
Yeah, so just utterly dreadful stuff. There's a few points I wanted to bring up. Connor with the point says, "Morning lads, freak results can happen, but this type of result has always been on the cards with PC. The board are making a mockery of this club and us as fans. He simply cannot survive this." Yeah, I mean, Liverpool get beat yesterday, but the Liverpool fans aren't calling for Arne Slot's head alley because he's certainly doing very well in the league and in Europe at this moment in time. I don't think there would be such a clamour about yesterday's result if Rangers were flying high at the top of the division as well, Joshua, but it's because he's failing so badly. Not just obviously the Scottish Cup, the League Cup. You could look at that and go, you were robbed of it. But the league is a bread and butter, and Rangers are nowhere near challenging at this moment in time.
Just on Liverpool, Derek, as well. I'm just trying to look at the team because I wasn't watching the game. But I don't think they had. I mean, no Mo Salah in the squad, no Van Dijk. Like Rangers had their strongest team in that second half. They brought on
and Queen's Park.
Queen's Park had, I think, Callum Davidson. We should give Queen's Park credit. It's easy to just focus in these results on what Rangers
they have to win.
They'd I think 4 fit defenders. Callum Davidson said in his post-match press conference, Rangers had their strongest team in that second half, give or take. Maybe you'd say Nsiala should be in the strongest team at the moment, or they had Cherney in there, Hadji, Desser, Zigaman, Raskin came on at the break for Rice, and I thought that was harsh on Rice. But again, I think the lack of time, the lack of passes into Rice is systemic of a style of play, and it just doesn't work consistently against teams who sit in. But anyway, I'm going back on myself, so I'll give it back to you.
Yeah, well, no, I just wanted to delve a wee bit into the detail at this moment in time. I touched on it with Johnny yesterday. Neil with the point says 16 corners against Queen's Park, no goals scored. We also need a set-piece coach. Would you go along with that, Joshua? The set pieces are deplorable, let's be honest.
Yeah, they scored a couple more recently, but the thing is they conceded. I think I could be wrong. It's around about 7 or 8 goals Rangers have conceded since Boxing Day, I think, from set pieces. I'll need to get those
that's great
figures sorted. And if you actually look at that set piece, Clement spoke about this in his pre-match press conference, and I've not watched it back because we've been busy doing other stuff. But I think sometimes as well, because teams are targeting the Rangers goalkeeper quite a lot from set pieces, if you look at the zonal setup Rangers use, they put a lot of bodies around the goalkeeper, and then they have this free shot at the edge of the box. It was the same in the League Cup final. Greg Taylor scored against Rangers. Hatate had that chance in the Old Firm game as of late. There's another example I can't remember off the top of my head. So, yeah, the amount of goals they've conceded, having conceded no set-piece goals, I think, in the first 16 league games, the record since then has went off a complete cliff. And these are the small details that if you are a really good set-piece team, Derek, and you get an early goal from one yesterday, or an equaliser, it's all these small details that count. That it was up until December it took Rangers to score a set piece goal, and they were the only team in the league who hadn't scored a set piece goal, I think, up until that point.
Colin with the point says, look at the tremendous success Arsenal have had with defending and scoring set pieces. It's a new age. We need to fix this. But it needs to improve. Other points of note, you mentioned there Bailey Rice being hooked at half-time. Willie says taking off Rice meant singling him out. The whole team was shocking. And another bizarre sub, he says, morning guys, chasing a goal versus Queen's Park and taking off a creative force in Hadji for Yilmaz, whose end product is non-existent. Pretty baffling subs, Joshua, yesterday.
Yeah, I thought firstly on Rice, he didn't. Did he? It was his first start for Rangers. Did he have a great half? No. And if you're talking about him as a first team player, yeah, no one did. But again, I think if you watch that first half back, it's easy to say like, oh, a system doesn't show a player's qualities very well. But again, there's a reason that coaches have such strict philosophies and that it matters who's in the dugout. I just think the ball, if you watch the game yesterday, again, I've not watched it back, but the ball's consistently going wide. Rangers don't really build through the middle. They want to go over the top or around the sides. And it leaves someone like Rice, I think, not able to... People are saying he should show for the ball, he should drop in. Maybe there's certain things he should have done. But I just don't think he's helped by what the tactical setup is. And this is again, something that extends way, way back. Initially, Clement's direct approach worked pretty well. Subsequently, I think teams just set off Rangers quite often and say, can you break us down with the ball? Or are you going to be threatening enough in those situations? Hadji wasn't having a great game, but bringing on Yilmaz, it was I was surprised. I thought Yilmaz would have been coming on for Chefty. The bench was somewhat limited. And do you throw Finlay Curtis into a cauldron like that yesterday? Maybe not. Rangers obviously wanted another attacker, and it was apparent as to why yesterday. I think there's not starting two strikers. I have some sympathy for Clement. The reason being, I don't think Igaman suits that deeper role very well. And Dessers doesn't. It's different with Danilo because Danilo's the one who drops into link play and Igaman sits higher. So I have some sympathy with Clement for that. But I was like you. I was surprised at the Yilmaz sub, and I felt for Bailey Rice because I don't think he was the main culprit in that first half.
Yeah, there was no real positive to take from the game. Fernandez started as well as first start. Joshua very much looked like a guy that hasn't played much football in a long time. Now I'm not writing him off at this point in time, but he needs time. Well, he's going to have a lot of games to get up to speed because I'd imagine between now and the end of the season, it's all about experimentation. It doesn't matter who is at the helm and who's in charge of Rangers. Now is the time to give opportunities to a lot of the young lads, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I thought he did all right. There's a couple of moments against Zach Rudden where he maybe was 1-on-1 and did well. He came off around the hour mark, and the chances. Queens had that chance where they had the cross flashed across the face of goal, and that was the thing. They had a wee spell, 5 minute, not 10 minute. It wasn't a spell of pressure, but they got up the pitch a bit more successfully in that second half. So yeah, I don't think it's a game. It's hard to judge a defender. He's not. I think you can see he's maybe not quite, and we spoke about this, not quite as refined in terms of his passing as in Ciala. I think he's a wee bit more of a ball carrier, more of a potentially physical presence the other way than in Ciala, who obviously wasn't in the squad. So yeah, difficult game to judge him on. But as you say, you'd expect that now domestically for Rangers, these domestic games need to all be about next season. But it's all very well saying that after the split there. Can we sit, and Beale came back. It's 5 games you think you've got to get through. Rangers have, 12 match days to get through that largely hold no significance, which is so frustrating for people who, pay every week. And I think that's where I don't know what you think, but obviously you weren't at the ground yesterday. But I think that kind of apathy is the word, or resignation, or just there's been so much emotion put in, you get to a point where people are just I think resignation becomes the word.
Well, it wasn't full. I didn't expect it to be full. It's probably
35, 36.
Yeah, two-thirds full, maybe, perhaps, if that. A lot of empty seats, which you can understand given it's a Scottish Cup tie against lower opposition. But I think it's also factored in that Rangers have been so poor this season domestically, and I expect dwindling attendances now between now and the end of the season. And it puts the board in a position now where they're going to have to act. I asked Johnny yesterday whether we should expect them to come out one way or the other, whether to give Clement the old dreaded vote of confidence or to make a call and change the manager. But he didn't think that would be coming, given we're in this review period, Joshua. And I I can't see it being brought forward any quicker than what it is. I'm not entirely sure how many weeks we are now into this review, but that yesterday is a real black mark on it. But you think a decision has to be made now? If it is, should Rangers go down a caretaker route? Do you think that's the best possible avenue to go down with appointing a permanent manager in the summertime, or do you look to try and bring someone else in at this point in time? What I said yesterday is that any football club should have contingency plans in place for if results are not going to plan. And you would like to think that Patrick Stewart, Fraser Thornton and the likes have some candidates on a sheet of paper that they'll look to target at this moment, given the state of play.
Yeah, if you go back to October, there was an actual period, I think, where Rangers were like just not suited to making a change, where they were just treading water. I think John Gilligan, as interim chairman, did a good job, and he came in to do what he said he was going to do: put a new structure in place, leave promptly, stepped up in a difficult moment. But when he was in the building, he wasn't there to hire and fire a manager. And you could argue that would have been the wrong decision to do that, regardless of who's in the dugout in the situation, because he's not the kind of long-term decision maker. Again, the criticism and the question, Derek, is how did Rangers get to that point? How did they have 18 months without a football executive above the manager? Niels Coppens moved to technical director, doesn't give him the hiring and firing jurisdiction over Clement. You see the academy decisions we've spoken about at length over the last month, the recruitment. There is some, I think, joined up thinking there, evidence, but it's Patrick Stewart's decision now. That's the reason he came out to speak about a month ago. If you listen to Patrick Stewart's, and we've got a piece of kind of outlining the state of play at the moment on the website, Derek, but Patrick Stewart's first interview with Rangers TV, I'll find the quotes if I can to read you what he said. He said on his role being the executive chairman, the decision maker comparatively to CEO compared to the chairman, who's now a non-executive figurehead more. He said, in terms of how the roles differ, I guess very high level, Fraser Thornton is a non-executive chairman and I am an executive CEO. What that means is day to day, I will be in the club, be running the club, looking after operational matters, whereas Fraser is non-executive. He is one step removed. Clearly, whatever I'm doing day to day, I have to operate in a framework which is agreed with the board and with Fraser. I'm accountable to the board and to Fraser, but day to day, it will be me who's coming into Ibrox, going to Auchenhowie and helping drive the club forward. That is a big change from this time last year. I know James Biscoe was the CEO. John Bennett, like Dave King, like Douglas Park behind him, very much the dominant voice, and still in terms of being a decision maker on the board, in terms of being someone with a financial stake in the club. So that has changed. Stewart has come out and made that back, and I think part of that backing also gives him time. Part of that backing is about we're making this decision to back Clement now, but also it gives us the time to do this internal review. It gives us the time to see if he's the right man for next season. And I think there is logic in that, because if you sack a manager in January, you need to get someone in for the remainder of the season. To answer your question, does a caretaker or a permanent manager make more sense at the moment? I'd hasten saying a caretaker, because do you want to hand someone the poison chalice of this season?
Oh, who takes it? Yeah,
exactly. You only need to look at Amarim. I know Rangers played United a couple of weeks ago. There's a reason that he, as reported, wanted to go into a job in pre-season as opposed to during a season. Yeah. It's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, apparently he was told it was now or never at Man United, but I would have tried, like you, I wouldn't have left Sporting Lisbon at that point and walked into that mess. That's for them to be concerned about. We've got our own mess that we're currently involved in at this moment in time, and who knows when it is going to clear. It is depressing times, to say the least. But we'll wrap up there for now. yeah, as it stands, I got a few messages this morning asking whether Clement is still in a job. He is at the time of recording. If anything breaks with regards to that, folks, just keep your eyes peeled on our social media channels, the YouTube and also the website for all the latest from Ibrox. Those of you that are Rangers Review Extra members, I think we'll record a Q&A show this afternoon. I'll pop the link out on the community page a little later on, so get your questions in, and imagine there'll be tons of those. We'll record around about 2 p.m, so I will join you for that. But if I don't speak to you then enjoy your Monday if you can. Hopefully going into work wasn't an arduous process. I know that many of you work with supporters of supporters of other teams, shall we say, and I don't envy you walking into that this morning. But we'll call it a day there. Big thanks to Joshua as ever for joining us, and we'll speak to you later. Bye for now.